Surinam's, and the progress of the bashes for our correctional officers. 22 students graduate from SMMC's Accelerated Registered Nursing course, Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Romy Patrice Gums. An update on the development project. Opening ceremony of the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM. Speech by Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. From the island, St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for February 25th, 2026. Minister of Justice Natalie Tackling updates the public on two matters that have understandably generated some attention over the past week, which are our agreement with Suriname and the progress of the bashes for our correctional officers. I think that transparency matters, particularly when decisions impact both our justice staff and the broader justice system. So I think it's important today to explain what we're doing and why we made the choices that we made, because it's not a secret, and we don't act in secrecy within this ministry. As many of you are aware by now, we are supporting operations. Speaking at the DCOM press briefing on Wednesday.
As many of you are aware by now, we have formalized a one-year agreement with Suriname to support operations at the Point Blanche prison. After months of discussions and negotiations, this assistance was structured in a phased and deliberate manner. And actually, these discussions and looking for a solution for the prison started around the summer of last year. So it actually has taken some time for us to get to this point. And in reaching this agreement, we actually also looked at speaking to Aruba, to Curacao, to the Netherlands to see if they could offer assistance. Everybody has their own operational challenges. That was not an option. We looked at hiring private security companies to give temporary assistance to the prison. That was also financially not a viable option as well, because it's also very expensive, and also security guards don't have the proper training to be able to work with inmates. And that was one of the issues that we had as well. On top of that, what we were dealing with within the Point Blanche prison is that we're currently dealing with the placement of, or we were dealing last year with the placement of the employees, meaning that while it's true that we have members on our payroll for the prison that are working in other areas of justice that we would like to transfer, you can't transfer that person to another department until they're first formally placed in the actual department that pays them. So we had to await the placement process in order to create vacancies and create room. In addition to that, of course, from a budgetary standpoint, even if you have extra money in one place, it doesn't mean that you can use that money to hire and fill vacancies within your organization, which meant that we had to look at a multi-layered approach. And this also came from cries that we have been receiving from the staff at the prison. Obviously, the workloads are high, and we have compounded sick leave because we have a small amount of people doing way too much work than that is meant for just those amount of people. So, of course, that sick leave compounds, making the work even more stressful and a lot for the ones that are present. So that being said, the approach that was taken was to look at a temporary influx of temporary personnel, temporary assistance, which would then give us some breathing room to allow the staff working now to have a break, to also get some time to train and also learn from others who are, again, immediately ready to be able to work in a prison environment, because that was for us really that big condition, that we needed people that immediately could work in the prison. And that's what we've done in this respect. I've seen a lot out there too of this idea that, you know, we're bringing in foreigners and taking away jobs from locals. This is absolutely not true. As I said, this is a temporary measure meant to reinforce and to assist and to answer the calls that we've received from prison management and from the staff. And actually, from the time that I was sworn in as minister, there are already requests pending to previous ministers as well for support to the Point Blanche prison. And we've finally gotten to a point where we have been able to realize that support. That support now will also allow us in the coming months, again, with that placement process having taken place, to now start local recruitment. And I've also, put this out on my personal Facebook page when we shared that article where, we've said, hey, we brought in this assistance, and now in the coming months, we will be starting local recruitment. So I really encourage, and I really truly hope that I get a long line of locals looking to work in the prison and work in our new facility once it's open. So in the coming months, that will also be something that we'll be focusing on. We're currently in the process right now of updating operational manuals for the prison, updating the function book, because of course the function book that exists is for the current prison operations. We will need a new function book that is better suited for the new operations and the new layout of the new facility. So those are ongoing, but in the meantime, we've also secured for budget 2026 15 vacancies that we will be able to fill with prison guards. So we will have budgetary room to hire 15 prison guards during 2026. And that is also our intention this year. So again, that narrative or the idea that we're bringing in locals or bringing in foreigners to do the job of locals, that is absolutely not this minister's intention or this ministry's intention. And for us, a critical success factor of this new facility is that we build reforms and that we build a facility that we can run locally. We don't want to be dependent on external support or external assistance. That's why we've continued to say that the DSRP is focused on reforms by St. Martin for St. Martin, and that fits our local context. So we also see that, again, as a critical success factor for the success of this project, is that we can adequately man this facility and be able to run it on our own, and that we don't always have to ask everybody else for assistance. So again, to say that this didn't come around overnight, there had been previous discussions with Suriname in the past with previous justice ministers about looking at ways that we could support one another. What I did was then kind of look at how can we blow new wind and blow new life into the existing agreements that were there. And of course, given that Suriname operates within a legal and institutional framework that aligns with ours. And that cooperation made practical sense and allowed us to move forward in a structured way. So as of the 1st of March, temporary deployment will begin as a stabilization measure to Point Blanche. It's time limited and does not replace, again, the established post or interfere with the placement procedures. For the first 6 months, 14 experienced officers will be deployed. And at the conclusion of that period, those officers will return back to Suriname, and a new group of 13 will then be deployed for an additional 6 months. So we'll have 2 groups that will come and go. And from an immigration perspective also, these individuals build no rights legally from an immigration perspective for St. Martin. That has also been made clear. And so again, those ideas of that we're misusing the system or people coming here to get a Dutch passport, I kind of wanted to kill that narrative as well, because we have made sure that those things cannot happen.
Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, V. Romy Patrice Gums, an update on the development project at the DCOM press briefing on Wednesday.
I'm happy to announce that as of January 1st, 2027, the Road Fund will finally go into effect. On January 23rd, 2026, the General Audit Chamber replied positively to the Ministry's proposal for the implementation of the Road Fund. The Road Fund law stipulates that all road tax must go towards the fund, but this has never been enacted. Last year, over 9 million guilders was collected in road taxes, yet just over 600,000 guilders went to road infrastructure. This, of course, does not include the amount from CapEx. In addition, the ministry will be establishing road quality standards and is looking into the introduction of regular road maintenance contracts. This means that in addition to road tax finally going directly to the roads, we will have funds readily available to make necessary investments much more quickly than before. This will also allow us to better plan, moving from reactive to proactive in our handling of road infrastructure. As we progress in realizing the fund's implementation, I will share more information with the public. State of sewage. Over the past few weeks, we have seen an increased breakdown of the sewage pumps in our network. The current system includes 13 major pumping stations and associated infrastructure, some almost 30 years old. The current breakdowns have occurred at stations in Phillipsburg, Belvedere, Fort William, and Middle Region. The ministry has a comprehensive view of what needs to be done, and our dedicated staff is working tirelessly to ensure that we get the necessary parts for repairs and make the necessary interventions to avoid any major disruptions. Through the SWAMP project, the government will be connecting the cul-de-sac area and upgrading the existing wastewater treatment plant. Work has already commenced with UNOPS in the EU to finally realize the household connections for Dutch Quarter. In addition, we recognize the need for and are working towards a comprehensive network upgrade to improve capacity, reliability, and resilience. I wish to express our sincerest apologies to those who have been affected by this breakdown and for your understanding, your collaboration, and most importantly, your patience. In addition, I wish to thank the teams for their hard work and ask the public please be mindful of the ongoing repairs and the work crews on the road. And finally, the backlog at Domain Affairs E7 and Grant Thornton. I am pleased to announce that the Ministry of VROMI is moving forward with the awarding of a contract to Grant Thornton for an important administrative improvement project within our Department of Domain Affairs. This project is designed to address and clear existing backlogs within Domain Affairs and to put in place stronger, more efficient systems for the future. Grant Thornton will be delivering a comprehensive package of work, which includes a full inventory and categorization of current backlogs, a detailed action plan for processing them, and the actual implementation of that plan, including the digitalization of hard copy files and their integration into our existing domain administration systems. In addition, the project will establish clearer process flows between Domain Affairs, the Receiver's Office, and other relevant stakeholders. Staff will also receive dedicated training and user documentation, including a process manual for the improved administration system that will be developed. Throughout the project, Grant Thornton will provide regular progress reports to ensure transparency and accountability. The total budget for this project amounts to $209,120,000. I want to be clear, this project carries no direct financial burden for the government of St. Martin. These costs are fully covered through the Dutch Ministry of Interior Affairs and Kingdom Relations, channeled through the TWO, Tijdelijke Werkorganisatie. This is a meaningful step towards forward in modernizing our administration and ensuring people of St. Martin receive the quality of service they deserve from the Department of Domain Affairs and the larger Ministry of VROMI.
22 students have recently completed the St. Martin Medical Center SMMC Accelerated Registered Nursing Course 2023-2025 and are now officially recognized as registered nurses, RNs. The two-year program, which began in November 2023, was coordinated and facilitated by Núñez Antonio Pantoflet, SMMC's Inpatient Care and Education Manager, in collaboration with the Instituto para Formación de Enfermería, IFE, of Curaçao. The program falls under IFE's accreditation, which is recognized in the Netherlands. This graduation marked the sixth group that has successfully advanced through SMMC's Accelerated RN program. The course was specifically designed for certified licensed practical nurses, LPNs, with more than 1 year of field experience who wish to advance to the registered nurse level. Instruction was delivered in English and included theoretical and practical training across medical, surgical, geriatric, mental health, obstetric, pediatric, public health, and ambulance care. Students gained hands-on experience in acute, ambulatory, and long-term care settings under the supervision of clinical instructors and nursing preceptors.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
News from Caracas. A proposal to establish a Holland House aimed at strengthening trade ties between Venezuela and the Dutch Caribbean was presented this week in Caracas, highlighting Curaçao's strategic role as a natural commercial bridge between the two markets. The initiative was introduced by Juan Gotopo during a session of the Emerging Leadership Commission of Fedecámaras, Federation of Chambers and Associations of Commerce and Production of Venezuela, of which he is a member. Gotopo, who also serves on the Subcommission for Exportable Offerings and New Business Models, has specialized in trade relations between Venezuela and the Dutch Caribbean. He has been part of the Fedecámaras structure for 3 years, following an invitation from the Business Federation, and has presented multiple proposals aimed at improving economic relations between Venezuela and the islands of Curaçao, Aruba, and Bonaire. Central to his presentation was the concept of a Holland House, a public-private platform designed to promote bilateral trade, support exporters, and connect businesses with Dutch and regional partners. Gotopo stressed that the idea does not originate within Fedecámaras itself. The first Holland House was established in Colombia, where it has grown into one of the country's largest binational chambers. Today, more than 40 Holland House organizations operate worldwide, facilitating internationalization, logistics, agribusiness, tourism, and trade services. Central to his presentation was the concept of a Holland House, a public-private platform designed to promote bilateral trade, support exporters, and connect businesses with Dutch and regional partners. Gotopo stressed that the idea does not originate within Fedecámaras itself. The first Holland House was established in Colombia, where it has grown into one of the country's largest binational chambers. Today, more than 40 Holland House organizations operate worldwide, facilitating internationalization, logistics, agribusiness, tourism, and trade services. DCOM, the Pan American Health Organization, PHO, has issued an epidemiological update due to a sharp increase in cases of measles in the Americas region during 2025 and early 2026. PAHO described this as a warning sign that requires immediate and coordinated action by member states. PAHO has called on member states to prioritize strengthening routine surveillance and vaccination activities. Measles is highly contagious. A single infected person can transmit it to up to 18 others. Vaccination remains the most effective means of protection. The Collective Prevention Services, CPS, a department of the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, is calling on guardians and parents to check the vaccine status of their child, REN, to see that they are up to date. More on the Centrale Bank van Curaçao and Sint Maarten, CBCS, has released its strategic plan for 2026-2028. After extensive consultations with employees, the Board of Directors, the Supervisory Board, and external stakeholders, the CBCS listened, learned, and set a joint course.
And so it means that for all these processes, you have to redesign it from the beginning to make sure it is actually real-time data-driven. And sustainability, it's not, it didn't make it to the vision, so we still find this important, but we wanted to have the mission to be, or the vision, sorry, to be short. And if you want to include everything, you lose something. And so sustainability is still important. For sustainability, the most important thing is that we feel that the first 3 years, or the last 3 years, was more about awareness creation and trying to understand what our agenda should look like. And now in this strategic plan, we want to do the next phase and then actually do the risk analysis for Curaçao and do the risk analysis for Sint Maarten. But we will talk about this a little bit further because we translated this vision into 6 strategic goals. So we have 6 strategic goals. They are focused on to make impact on 3 levels, to make an impact for the countries, also on a country level, to make an impact in the financial sector and to make an impact on the bank itself. The reason why we have these 3 focus areas is to make sure that we are focused on making a real impact for people. If you do a strategic plan as an organization, the risk is that you focus on yourself and your own operations and what you should do differently, and then you forget that it's not about how you do things, it's about what the impact is on the people and the businesses in Sint Maarten. And we made this explicit by having strategic goals for all 3 focus areas. And so I will discuss them one by one, all 6, and then also be very specific in what is then the action that we're gonna do to achieve or come closer to our strategic goal. And my proposal would be that after each strategic goal, I pause and see whether there's comments or questions, because otherwise, if I keep talking, then I talk for half an hour and then it becomes a little bit boring. So it's maybe better if we do a small pause after each one, and we can make it a bit more interactive.
I just want to ask one question.
Yeah.
If we're the longest central bank in the Western Hemisphere, how come the issue of trust is so prominent in your vision?
I would
think over 200 years you've built some level of trust.
Yes. No, well, it's a good question. I think it is important for all central banks. So independent of whether you are 200 years or like a Federal Reserve 110 years, I think trust is very important. I think we saw this again, that trust can be easily lost when President Trump was suggesting he would appoint a chairman for the Federal Reserve Board that was more lenient towards his ideas and not independent, and we saw the impact in the financial markets, and I think that was the main reason why President Trump chose differently in the end to nominate a different person. And it's a long introduction to come to your question. I think it should remain our focus every time and continue to be. And it's also something that is easily lost and it's difficult to gain. So it takes a lot of time to gain, but then you can easily lose it as well. And so I think we are in a process of rebuilding trust. I think we lost some trust in a decade ago when we had the issues of Enia, Gielbank that I talked about, where we saw that financial institutions run into difficulty although they were being supervised by the central bank, and of course that's not helping your trust. And so I think it is really important for the central bank, no matter whether you're in a good position or in a bad position. I think we are in a good position now, but we need to be focused on that because that's our most important asset to be effective. So then going to the 6 strategic goals. And so the first one is based on, with the focus on the countries. And so the goal is to contribute to the well-being of the countries through transparent monetary policy making and proactive policy advice. And let me explain a little bit, because monetary policy making is our core task, and because monetary policy is about protecting the fixed exchange rate. And that we have a fixed exchange rate is one of the key assets for our welfare in Curaçao and Sint Maarten. If we didn't have this monetary stability, that would increase our inflation, that would affect our purchasing power of the people in Sint Maarten, that would really create instability in the decisions that businesses make. And so this is a key requirement for welfare in both Curaçao and Sint Maarten. And we put it in this agenda because we need to rethink. Every time when we set these kind of policies, you need to rethink it because it is being influenced by technological developments. So what do I mean? And let me take a little bit of time to explain it. So the objective is the fixed exchange rate. The instruments that we have as a central bank is we can issue certificates of deposits. We can set the interest rate where you can lend from the central bank. We can restrict capital flows, and we do restrict capital flows. And these are important instruments in which we define the room for businesses to provide credit, and that will stimulate or restrict the economy and then influence our intermediate target. Our intermediate target is the reserve levels. So we always say like we are in a good position because our reserve level is almost 5 months of imports. And that means that if all exports are coming to a standstill and we don't export, so no tourist is coming to the island, then we still can finance our imports for 5 months, please. So, and why is it important? Because we need to understand, for example, we have a reserve requirement now of 18.5%. And this 18.5% means that if a bank has, for example, 100 million in deposits, 18.5 million of this deposit he needs to deposit at the central bank. He doesn't get any interest. He still has cost because he has to pay his customers. So it's a real cost that is posed on the banks and thus on the people of and the businesses of Sint Maarten.
Now for the weather forecast. Tonight through Thursday midday, partly cloudy and breezy with light haze. Isolated showers are likely. Surface winds, today through Thursday midday, easterly with a gentle to moderate breeze at 10 to 18 mph and possible higher gusts. State of the sea, slight to moderate waves, swells 3 to 7 feet. Outlook through Friday midday, occasionally cloudy and breezy with light haze and isolated showers, and now your 3-day forecast.
SXM, your social and health insurance. SXM, your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social and health insurances.
Hamilton, Bermuda. The Caribbean Tourism Organization, CTO, and Airports Council International, Latin America, and the Caribbean, ACI-LAC, have formalized a framework for strategic cooperation aimed at strengthening regional air connectivity and advancing closer alignment between the aviation and tourism sectors across the Caribbean. The Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, was signed at the conclusion of the first CTO Air Connectivity Summit on February 24, 2026, in Bermuda. The MOU establishes a non-binding framework for broad cooperation, focused on improving air access, building institutional and human capacity, and supporting sustainable, resilient, and inclusive tourism growth across CTO member states. This partnership reflects a shared understanding that the future of Caribbean tourism depends on stronger collaboration between aviation and destination stakeholders, said Donna Regis Prosper, Secretary General and CEO of CTO. By working closely with ACI-LAC, we are creating new opportunities to strengthen air connectivity, enhance our regional aviation network, and ensure the Caribbean remains competitive, accessible, and resilient in a rapidly evolving global travel landscape. St. Martin cultural and media organizations, Culture Time, and House of Nehesi Publishers, HNP, issued a 4-point call to action in an open letter to the CARICOM Secretariat and heads of government on Tuesday, calling for stop playing the audience to the arsonist and start defending the Caribbean homeland. The 50th meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, is taking place in Basseterre, St. Kitts, and Nevis. Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, is scheduled to attend the summit, which will run from February 24 to 27, 2026. This meeting marks a significant milestone for CARICOM, with over 200 delegates expected to attend, said the regional organization of 15 member states and 5 associate members. History will not remember the hospitality you show in St. Kitts. It will remember whether you stood with the people of Havana and Caracas, with the people of the wider Caribbean, or with the hands that are waging economic warfare, strangling Cuba, and the gunboat diplomacy reclaiming Venezuelan oil, said Fabian A. Badejo and Lasana M. Seco in the open letter from their respective organizations to the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM. Opening ceremony of the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM. Speech by Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Friends, it is a privilege to address this 50th regular Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community. 50 years or 50 meetings of this body represents far more than institutional continuity. They tell a story of political maturity, determination, and a shared conviction to Caribbean civilization. But anniversaries also demand honest reflection. We meet at a time when the speed of global change is outpacing the speed of regional coordination. Climate shocks arrive faster than our financing mechanisms. Criminal networks adapt faster than our institutions. Technological disruption is reshaping economies faster than our regulatory and skills frameworks can adapt. These challenges do not wait for us to be comfortable to align policy, resources, and action. The question before us, therefore, is not whether CARICOM can endure, for we have and we will, but whether it can deliver for our people with urgency and relevance in a rapidly changing world. For decades, an idealized narrative around Caribbean integration, while well-intentioned, has framed perhaps unrealistic expectations within our respective populations. It has also perhaps unintentionally diminished the genuine strengths of our existing arrangement. An association of independent states bound not by uniformity, but by shared purpose, mutual regard, and a deep history of collaboration. CARICOM is not, and has never claimed to be, a political union. Our treaty does not mandate a singular foreign policy or a supranational authority. And because we are sovereign states, each accountable to our own electorates, we will at times assess risks differently, sequence priorities differently, or interpret geopolitical opportunities differently. That is not evidence of the weakness of our association. This is the natural expression of sovereign democracies navigating an increasingly turbulent global environment. Too often, differences in national perspectives are portrayed as fractures, threatening the regional project. I submit that they are nothing of the sort. While there are undoubtedly circumstances where one voice has and will work for us to great effect globally, variations in national perspectives is not a liability to be feared. It is a resource to be harnessed. The measure of our integration should therefore not be uniformity of position, but effectiveness of cooperation. Indeed, our diversity of economies, political traditions, development strategies, and governance approaches is one of CARICOM's most underappreciated strengths. Each member state functions as its own laboratory of democracy, able to test policy innovations that others can study, refine, and adapt. This is not divergence. It is distributed regional problem solving.
This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.